Hi, I'm Charlie from CookingSecretsForMen.com, and we're here with another installment of Cooking with Milwaukee Community Leaders, and we're on assignment today. We're in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, as a western suburb of Milwaukee, and I'm very pleased to be at the home of Derek Taylor. Derek?
Nice. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for inviting me. So, Derek is currently the COO of Three Leaf Partners, which is a real estate development company in the greater Milwaukee area. We'll get to Three Leaf in a little bit. So, I want to talk about your upbringing, and then we'll figure out how we got to here. So, you were born and raised in Texas.
That's right.
And so talk a little bit about your formative years, your growing up years, and how it prepared you for your next phase in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised just outside of Dallas, Texas. I lived with my mom until about my sophomore year of high school, and then I moved to East Texas, a couple hours east of Dallas, and lived in a small town there called Ore City, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of your typical Texas small town, high school football and barbecue and
Sure.
just kind of way of life, a small town community. Went to high school, graduated high school there, and then found myself going to SMU in Dallas, Texas for undergrad for college, and I then also stayed at SMU and went to law school there. So I spent about 7 years at SMU in Dallas after high school before I entered the working world.
So I did want to talk about your education. So you did get your undergrad at SMU. What was that in?
So I double majored in finance and philosophy in undergrad, and then went to the law school there.
So was law school part of the plan, or did that just kind of evolve?
Yeah, I think it definitely evolved. I was a big, athlete and sports fan growing up. Played football, ran track, played baseball. And then the movie Jerry Maguire was a big movie when I was a kid. And
Show me the money.
Show me the money. That's right. So I was a big fan of that, and I thought at the time that when I was in undergrad and I was kind of debating what do I do next? Do I go into investment banking and finance, or what do I do? I thought at the time I might want to be a sports agent, and I knew that most sports agents had law degrees. So I decided to go to law school, and I was the first person in my family to go to, in my immediate family actually, to go to college or to law school. So then I went to law school because I thought I wanted to be a sports agent.
So you, at somewhere along the line, you got a sports law certificate from Marquette. So I noticed in some of your background, you had some internships and some paid jobs in the sports area. So did you dabble in that and decide, I'm not really interested, or did you want to continue in that in some way or another?
Yeah, so it's ultimately how I found myself in Milwaukee, Wisconsin as well. But I went to SMU Law School, like we mentioned. They at that time had a visiting student exchange program with Marquette Law School. Marquette had and still has a sports law program. And so what they would do is they would take one student from SMU Law School, send them to Marquette, and one student from Marquette, send them to SMU, kind of an exchange program. I was the student who got selected to go from SMU to Marquette. So I spent the fall of 2008 in Milwaukee. I had actually never even visited Wisconsin. I drove up here in a Ford Mustang, and not expecting that by the time I would have to drive back in December, I had a rear-wheel drive Mustang and would be leaving in snow, so that created a different story. But I came up, did the sports law program at Marquette. While I was here, I had the opportunity to do an internship with what's known as the Miller Park, or was known as the Miller Park Stadium District at the time, which was the stadium district that supported the financing, the public bonds for the stadium, which is interesting because it's kind of a topic of conversation again now.
Yes, it is. So you did practice as a lawyer, practice law for several years. Some was in Texas and then some was here. So how did you how did your journey to here end up so that you're now here? Yeah.
So I did a couple other of those sports internships. Really enjoyed it, but I was fortunate enough to work at a large law firm in Dallas and get a job there after I graduated law school. I graduated law school in 2009 and practiced in Dallas for about 4.5 years. When I was at that Marquette program. I met a friend of mine who ultimately later introduced me to my wife Laura, who is from Hartland, Wisconsin, right down the road,
yeah.
from where we are. So that's ultimately how I found my way to Milwaukee, as my wife's from here.
Gotcha.
So we moved here in December of 2013 from Dallas, and just made what I would say is a kind of a lifestyle choice. We knew we were going to have kids soon, and we now have 2. And we just thought that Milwaukee would be a great place to live and raise a family.
Good. All right, so as we mentioned at the top, you're the COO of Three Leaf Partners, which is a real estate development company. And part of your portfolio is affordable housing, which is a subject that's very important in all major metropolitan areas. So talk a little bit about your work at Three Leaf, how you got involved with that, and then what your mission in the community is.
Yeah. So Three Leaf Partners, for those who aren't aware, is a partnership that came into existence with Pat Connaughton from the Milwaukee Bucks and Matt Burrow, who is the CEO and founder of Catalyst Construction. In my private practice prior to joining Three Leaf, I was an attorney at Hush Blackwell and had the opportunity to work with each of those guys and then to work with them through the merger. And one of the things that Three Leaf is founded on is the belief, and it's sort of the mantra that we live by, is impact through real estate. And that means more than just building a building or returning a good return to our investors. It means things like, how do you build a thriving community? How do you support people in that community?
Right.
How do you impact lives? Some of the things that Matt has done in his philanthropic life and Pat has done in his with the Pat Connaughton Foundation are directly relevant to what we do at Three Leaf Partners. So our company we're a diverse real estate development and investment company, including doing multifamily housing, and many of the projects that we do are focused on how do we create affordable housing or workforce housing opportunities, as the case may be.
Right.
We're working on one large project, as an example, right now in Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, so just south of Milwaukee,
Sure.
that would provide 30% affordable units to a senior community population.
Okay.
And we've been working on that project with WIDA, which is the state agency that helps provide affordable housing in the state. So it's critical to who we are as a company to make an impact on communities, to sustain livelihoods with jobs and with households and homes.
So one of the misnomers, and I'm very aware of this, is that people equate affordable housing with housing for poor people and it's free, which is, neither is true. What percentage would you say, and you may not know off the top of your head, but in terms of for the impact that you're trying to make in the community, what would you say is the percentage that you're trying to put in? I mean, you guys are trying to make money, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, and to your point, there are different guidelines depending on which grants or funding you avail yourself of. If it's low-income housing tax credits, it may drive a different profile, but generally speaking, many of the time we're trying to drive 20% affordable units in our projects where the project and community will support it.
Right.
And some of those other programs, and what does affordable mean? To your point, many times it's kind of 50% of the medium income levels or the low income levels in a particular area, depending on which municipality you're dealing with.
Sure.
So it gets very fact intensive, but we're striving. So for example, in the Mount Pleasant project, we were only required to offer 20% set aside for affordable housing units, and we're offering 30% because we want to, because we think the project and community has the need and that the project can support it.
All right, so one of the other things that's interesting about you, now that you're a lawyer and you're a developer and you work with a variety of areas right here, so you're a competition barbecue. And I have to assume that started in Texas. Your background just afforded you the knowledge and the expertise. And you also own a company that does manufactures barbecue products, and we're kind of surrounded by them. So why don't you talk about let's talk about the products first, and then the barbecue will wind into what we're doing today.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, we are surrounded here by Smoky Woods Wood Products. Smoky Woods is a manufacturing company based in Privets, Wisconsin, so about an hour north of Green Bay. and we manufacture and provide to the retail market stick products, as you see. We also provide charcoal. This is brand new, kind of hot off the press. This is the first time we're ever actually showcasing our charcoal, lump charcoal product. So this is the debut, worldwide debut here, and we're going to officially launch it at the American Royal in Kansas City in September. But we also offer pellets and then chunk and chip products. So these products are the wood fuel that powers a grill or a smoker, or people who cook on, use a stove or a fire pit or pizza oven, any sort of outdoor cooking. These are the products that fuel that cooking. And it's a great story about the company. This company was a company we got introduced to about 3 years ago. We were able to step in, help stabilize the company, and then since that time we have invested time and money and resources, and now we've grown the jobs there from about 12 to now about 25, and we're on the path to, we think we'll have about 40 employees by the end of next year, 2024. So it's kind of a story of a turnaround and a thriving company and community.
So other than the products that go into the fire, do you have any of the gloves and tongs and all that stuff?
So we do wood products, and then we also have a proprietary barbecue rub currently available. And we have another proprietary rub that will be coming to market soon. We also have a sauce that's in R&D that we're going to sample later today when we have some barbecue.
All right, so let's talk about the competition barbecue aspect of what you do, which will roll into what we're doing today.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it did kind of start in Texas. I mean, I think a lot of people expect that Texans are just sort of innately born with the ability to barbecue and cook brisket, Maybe we are a little bit, but my dad and his brother would do one annual competition, and me and my brother would help them, and this was when I was still living in Texas. And so I kind of got a little bit of exposure to it then, but then when I moved to Wisconsin, that first year I was here, I really didn't know anybody yet, and I saw a flyer for a barbecue competition that was going on in Whitewater, and so I loaded up my old kind of rusty smoker in back of my Ford Explorer, drove to Whitewater, set up a tent, and decided to compete in barbecue, and didn't fare well that day, but I did get one call, which is in the barbecue world, if you're in the top 10, typically you get a call and you get to come on stage and get a trophy or a ribbon. I got an 8th place call in pork, and so I was kind of hooked after that. And it started me down this path of competing on the KCBS circuit, which is the Kansas City Barbecue Society, and then also on the SCA circuit, which is the Steak Cook-Off Association. And I've competed in Wisconsin, Illinois, Texas, Kansas City, probably some other places I'm forgetting, and even had the opportunity in 2022 to compete at the World Championships for the Steak Cook-Off Association, which is an invitational event in Fort Worth, Texas, which was really, really cool. So we also do this will be the 3rd year I have cooked and competed at the American Royal in Kansas City, which is the largest barbecue competition in the world. And so it became kind of it was just a passion project doing barbecue, and then it sort of led itself into other labors of love that surround us now.
Well, that's great. All right, so tell us a little about your family.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife, Laura, is the one who grew up in Heartland, and we have 2 children. Ford, who is turning 9 on Sunday, and today's Friday, and so we're cooking barbecue today, not only for you and I to enjoy, but for everyone at the birthday party tomorrow to enjoy. And then we have a daughter, Tessa, who is 7 and a half, she will tell you, and they're entering 4th and 2nd grade locally here in the kind of Heartland, Oconomowoc area.
So you've got some nice clothes on. I've got give you one of our aprons so you're not getting your smoky wood shirt all.
Perfect, thank you.
So tell us how what we're doing today. We're having some ribs, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so I mentioned the American Royal. So at that event this year, we're going to compete in a number of categories, including ribs, which at the Royal you compete in pork spare ribs, and so St. Louis cut. So what I'm going to do is take us inside. We're going to trim a full rack of spares into a St. Louis cut of spare ribs, and then I'll show my process for seasoning those ribs. This is the same recipe that I will use at competition at the end of September. So we're going to run through that recipe, and then I'll put them on the big smoker we've got right in front of us here, and we'll go from there.
Great. All right, well, we're going to go inside and take a look at Derek's method for getting his ribs ready for competition, which I think is interesting. Certainly different than the way most of us, I just stick them in the oven and put some grill marks on them after about 2 hours. So give us a minute to head inside, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're here in Derek's kitchen. We're going to prepare some ribs that he's got over there. So Derek, take it away.
All right, thank you, I will. So I mentioned that we're going to do spare ribs, and we're going to turn these into a St. Louis cut spare ribs, which is what we cook for competitions. Okay. So I'm going to show you that. So I'll show you here. This is kind of a full rack of spare ribs. And what we're going to do is we're going to take off this top flange piece and then just leave the St. Louis cut, which is kind of where the bones are. And you can still keep this and make, something else out of it. Rib tips a lot of times are what that's called when you keep that and make something else out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of tools here and just get rid of some of these things that we don't need.
Okay.
And so you can see there's kind of a line here if you're going to St. Louis cut. And by the way, you don't have to do this at home. Most of the time you can go to your local butcher or just to Syndic's or wherever you shop, and they will many times have St. Louis cut already ready. But the ones that we bought came from Wild Fork this way, and I thought it'd make a good opportunity just to show people the difference between kind of a full rack and a St. Louis cut rack. So
it's interesting to me because I just buy them in a pouch and, like I said, stick them in the oven.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I know a lot of people that kind of oven method is preferred method,
and it works. It's just
it does.
It's easy.
Exactly.
It's in a cooking secrets for men kind of way.
That's right.
But now we're watching an artist. Now, do these have the membrane in the back?
They do, and so I'll show that too. I'm going to cut that off. Okay. I always cut off the membrane. Some people don't. There's different, and that's the thing too, is there's really no right or wrong way with any of this. It's preference and what people prefer to do. So I leave you to try and experiment, including with wood. Like, people like different wood varieties, less or more smoky depending on taste. I know some guys who just really love that smoke flavor and they want more of it, so they cook with hardwoods, so like oak, hickory, cherry, things like that give off more of that smoke flavor. And then if you like less smoke flavor, you'll cook with an apple or a pecan or a peach, something that's gives off less of that smoke flavor. So just cutting through these bones here on this top part, and I'm doing a little slower than I normally would so that people can kind of see what I'm doing if they're interested in that, and I'll save that. What we're going to do is turn these over, and you'll see that there's just some excess here that we're going to get rid of to make these squared up a little so that they cook more evenly. So what I do is this piece here, I just come right to the bone and make a cut there just to square that up, and then we're going to do the same thing here. And you can use a knife, or I've got some nice kitchen scissors here that do a nice job of it as well.
And you save all the discard pile?
Yeah, I do. I use, in this winter, I'll typically freeze all this now, and then in the winter, when you have nothing better to do on a February Saturday, I'll make sausage with all the leftover pork parts, and you can do different things there. So what we're left with, and you mentioned the membrane, this is the membrane. So what I do, and this is there's a lot of barbecue tricks you learn when you do competitions. I'm going to show one of them here. So if you get under there with a butter knife, which is what I'm using here, and you just start to get under that membrane, and you'll be able to get right under it and start to pull it. And then I use these gloves because it makes things a lot easier. And then if you grab it with a paper towel, then it pulls right off.
I think I cooked ribs for about 20 years before I knew that the membrane was supposed to be taken off. Oh well.
And just like that, we now have what I would call as a very nice squared up, evenly trimmed rack of St. Louis spare ribs. And what I do is I typically start on the back. I hit the front and the back because whenever we cut into these later, you're gonna kind of want all sides to have some rub. So I take off one glove, and now I have a clean hand underneath. I take just a yellow mustard when I do pork products. I just slather a little on here, and the reason I do this is it creates a binder for the rubs that we're gonna put on. So I just kind of rub that yellow mustard around like that. And then we're gonna use 2 rubs today. The first one is, this is my rub. It's a rub I came up with over, of course, me and my wife did over the course of several years, and then we last year took the step of having it co-packed in a professional way. So this is the Come and Smoke It dry rub, which is available on our website if people are interested, smokywoodsbbq.com.
Yeah, we'll have that link in the description box.
And this is one of the rubs we'll be offering through our Smoky Woods offerings that I mentioned earlier. So what I'm going to do is just give it a nice hit of the rub. This rub has a good flavor of kind of honey, Wisconsin honey powder, so it's going to be a sweeter rub with a nice paprika to it, so it gives it kind of that reddish orange tint there. So just a little bit there, and then I'm going to come with another rub that has a little darker color to it, more of a reddish color. This is called Rub This on Everything. This is from some guys, 43rd Parallel Barbecue, and you can get these and our Smoky Woods products in Greendale at the barbecue supply store there. And this is a sweet heat, so this one's gonna have kind of salt, sweet, and then back in heat. And I like to layer rubs when I do pork products in particular, because it gives it just a better color and a bark, and it also gives it kind of a better flavor profile. So then I'm gonna just turn those over with one hand, and I'm gonna do the same thing over here.
So mustard on both sides.
That's right.
It's a good trick.
Yeah. And then I'll just kind of slather that on there, and then we're gonna do the same thing in the same order. Come and Smoke It rub first. This is the side where you're mainly gonna get all the meat. So we're gonna make sure that gets a good rub application, and then we'll come back behind it with the sweet heat, rub this on everything. And then I'll typically let this kind of sit like that, and that rub will actually kind of get into the meat and start to find its way in there, and it'll start to glisten after about 5 minutes.
Alrighty, so we're gonna head on out to the smoker.
Yep, that's right. So actually, I'll take.
All right, so we're out here, and I want you to take a look at Derek's smoker. It's pretty big and very shiny, and I'm sure it cooks very well. So we got the ribs out, and so Derek, take it away for where we go from here.
Yeah, and don't let this smoker intimidate you. You can cook ribs on your Weber at home or your gas grill at home, which is exactly the way I started. This is the big smoker I use when I do competition. So we're gonna open it up, and we're gonna put this rack of ribs on now that we've got it all rubbed and ready to go. And we've got this right where we want it. It's cooking about 225 on the smoker, and then we're gonna close that up there. And I'll show you too, I mentioned earlier we're cooking some other things today. We've got a big brisket going right here too, if you can see that.
Wow.
And that's been on since about 5:30 this morning or so. And so yeah, we're gonna let the rack of ribs cook there for about 3 hours roughly on the smoker, and I do it kind of based on color when it gets a nice bark. And then for that last hour and a half or so, I typically wrap it in foil and add a little moisture, some butter to it, maybe a little honey to it, to really let it break down and kind of marinate in that juice, and that's where it really tenderizes. So we're gonna let it do that on the smoker now. Feel, time, and color. I'm a big color fan, especially when you're doing competition, because a lot of the judges judge based on what they see.
Sure.
They like it if it looks good. So I'm looking for color, and I like it to have kind of that mahogany kind of richness color to it, where it doesn't look too dark, but it also doesn't look undercooked. And when I get that color, then I can take it and wrap it like I mentioned, and it'll stop adding more color, and it'll still cook it and tenderize it the way you want.
Great. All right, well, I guess nothing left to do except taste the ribs.
That's right.
All right, so let's set up for, all right, so we'll be right back. So Derek has got the ribs.
Yeah, we've got this, this rack is ready now to take out of that wrap that we mentioned earlier. And you can see now it's got a really great, nice, that mahogany color we talked about. So what we're gonna do to finish these is I'm gonna put them right back here closer to the fire. So if you're cooking at home on your grill, just for the last 5 minutes or so, I like to to get them on the fire, and then I'm going to take that sauce I mentioned that we're working on that's kind of in R&D right now. This is going to be coming to market soon. I'm going to take that sauce and I'm going to just pour some sauce right on the ribs, and I'm going to paint it on there. And then we're going to give it about 5 minutes of time, and it'll really glaze on there really nicely. And these things will be ready to go in just a few minutes.
Great. All right, so nothing left to do except eat them.
Eat ribs.
All right, so we'll be back. All right, so we're gonna pull them off the smoker and then cut them.
So yeah, you can see now they've got a nice glaze kind of cooked on there for the ribs. What we're gonna do is I like to, this is a lot of times online, kind of the muddy method. So you've got your nice barbecue sauce glazed on there, and then I just take with one of the rubs we use and just hit it at the end here. This is exactly how I would do it for competition as well. And by the time this gets turned in, that has kind of seeped in to give it just one last punch of flavor. And then I'm going to start cutting into these with our slicing knife here. So you can do it different ways. You know, at home, if you're doing for competition, I would do it this way, and I would do it really straight to get straight bones. But the easier way, so you can see what you're doing, is if you turn it over, you can see exactly where the bones are.
Right.
So I go to the edge of each bone and cut just like that, and then we'll come back in these after these cool down just a little bit, and we'll slice into these. And
all right, so everything looks great. Derek's gonna finish chopping these ribs, and then we're gonna taste them. So back. All right, so we got our ribs.
we're back.
Check them out.
That's right.
So Derek, give us the 30-second spiel on what we got here.
Yeah, so these are St. Louis spare ribs made for competition, and I've already sliced these, so they're ready for us to grab. Take a paper towel here, and we'll grab one and we'll bite into them, and we'll see what you think.
Well, I think I'm going to do more than bite into one. I think I'm going to devour one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Gonna be a little hot still, but
It's okay. Oh, you can taste that. It got a little bit, I can see where that sweetness is from the rubs. Got just a little teeny hint of that.
yeah. Little heat there.
And they're juicy. Wow. Juicy, juicy. Well, I might have to change what I usually do, which is shake hands with the guest
At the end.
I'm not sure.
We have to do the elbow bump, right?
All right. Well, this has certainly been a fun time.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me and coming out to Oconomowoc and letting me tell the story about what we're doing at Three Leaf and at Smoky Woods, and it's been fun.
It has. I appreciate you taking the time. You got your son's birthday party coming up, and so I've intruded for a little bit of time here,
Not
but
at all.
I think I'm going to have some more ribs. So I may have to have 2 ribs, just because, you know, it's lunchtime. I got a long drive back to Milwaukee.
Otherwise, it would just be ribs. So you need to have 2, so it's ribs.
That's true. That's a good point. So thank you all very much. So please check out Derek and his company Smoky Woods. We'll have the link in. So check out the American Royal in Kansas City in September and see where Derek places. I'm sure he'll be in the top. He wants to get a medal.
That's right.
For his stuff.
Cool.
And they have plenty of products. The rubs, the upcoming sauce, the wood. It's great, and your work in the community is greatly appreciated. You know, as all the people we've talked to, it's just very special that you can do this, have a great time doing this, but also on your day job try to affect some change in our city. So,
Thank you for spotlighting that.
so thank you all very much. Always appreciate the support. Please like and subscribe. Check out some of the other community leader videos on our website. And as always, thanks for watching.